The year was 1588, and England stood on the edge of its survival. The Spanish Armada, a vast fleet intended to bring down Queen Elizabeth I's reign and restore Catholicism, was sailing towards the English shores. The future of the nation, its faith and its freedom, rested in the hands of the troops gathered at Tilbury. The Queen, with courage and determination, arrived to address her soldiers, fully aware that the coming battle could decide the fate of her kingdom. As Elizabeth I, dressed in battle armor instead of her royal gown, approached the troops, the men before her felt a strange mix of fear and awe. They were not facing just any monarch. They were facing the embodiment of England's resistance, a ruler who had spent years navigating threats both within and beyond her realm. She stood before them, tall and regal, the virgin queen with eyes full of fire. "Let tyrants fear," Elizabeth began, her voice unwavering. "I have always so loved you that I would not have you in any other condition than to stand as free men." Her words rang out, filled with authority. The soldiers, who had been plagued by doubts and the weight of impending doom, began to stir with renewed courage. These were the words of a leader who was willing to fight alongside them, not one who would sit safely behind the walls of her palace while they bled on foreign soil. "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman," Elizabeth continued with a quiet yet firm tone. "But I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too." The Queen's bold statement struck deeply into the hearts of her soldiers. She was acknowledging her own vulnerability as a woman, but she was also declaring that her strength, resolve, and leadership were of royal caliber. In that moment, she was no longer just a queen. She was a warrior standing shoulder to shoulder with her men. Her speech was not one of empty promises or boastful bravado, but a reflection of the deep love and care she had for her nation. "I come amongst you, not as a queen, but as one of you," Elizabeth said, her eyes scanning the sea of soldiers before her. "I am ready to share in whatever fate may come our way. Together we will stand or fall." Her words conveyed a unity of purpose, a connection that transcended the distance between royalty and common soldier. In this moment, all were equal in their fight for England. Elizabeth understood the true gravity of the situation. Spain's invasion was not merely a military conflict. It was a challenge to her rule, her faith, and her very identity as a sovereign. Yet even in the face of such overwhelming odds, she did not shrink back. "I have lived long enough to know the worth of England's honor," she declared, "and I would rather lose my crown than see it taken by any enemy of our land." The soldiers, who had been uncertain and fearful, now felt the weight of their queen's words. She was not only their ruler, but also their equal in the struggle ahead. They were fighting for their homes, their families, and their very way of life. Elizabeth's words served as a powerful reminder that this was not just a war against Spain, but a battle to preserve the soul of England. In this pivotal moment, Elizabeth's leadership went beyond the tactical realm. She inspired her soldiers not with mere commands, but with an emotional rallying cry that filled their hearts with the strength to face the Spanish fleet. "We shall win or die together," she proclaimed. "And if we must die, let it be with honor, knowing that we fought for our land and our people." As she finished speaking, a hush fell over the troops. The words of their queen, filled with both wisdom and bravery, had transformed the air itself. They were no longer a group of frightened men waiting for a battle that might never come. They were an army united under a singular purpose, ready to take on the might of the Spanish Empire with their queen leading the charge. Elizabeth I's address at Tilbury was not just a speech, it was a defining moment in history. It was a moment when a queen transcended her role as a monarch and became a symbol of England's resistance. Her leadership on that day ensured that her soldiers not only fought for survival, but fought with a fierce sense of duty, loyalty, and pride. The battle ahead would be fierce, but in that moment, Elizabeth had made it clear that England would not be cowed by the threat of invasion. As the sun rose on the morning of August 8, 1588, the English soldiers stood at Tilbury, their resolve solidified by the stirring words of Queen Elizabeth I. The great Spanish Armada was fast approaching, a vast fleet of ships led by the Duke of Medina Sidonia, carrying with it the hopes of Philip II of Spain. To them, it was not just an invasion, it was a crusade, aimed at bringing England back into the fold of Catholicism and defeating the heretical reign of the Protestant Elizabeth. But the English were no longer afraid. They were filled with the strength and unity that their queen had ignited within them. Under Elizabeth's leadership, the English fleet, though smaller in number, had one advantage. They fought for survival. It was not just land or power they were defending, it was their very way of life. And with the Queen's words ringing in their hearts, they knew that they were standing on the brink of history. This battle would define the future of England, of Protestantism, and of European geopolitics for generations to come. Elizabeth, having addressed her troops, did not simply retreat to the safety of her court. Instead, she remained present, not far from the front lines. The Queen's own courage and the display of her unyielding leadership served as a reminder to her people of her devotion to them. Her presence on the battlefield was not just symbolic, but powerful, a beacon of hope for her soldiers, a reminder that she too was ready to risk her life for England. At the same time, Elizabeth's confidence bolstered the morale of the English commanders. Sir Francis Drake, Lord Howard of Effingham, and other renowned naval leaders took their positions, eager to engage the Spanish in battle. The English fleet was small but agile, using their superior tactics and better ships to their advantage. The battle was set to unfold in the narrow waters off the coast of England, where the Spanish, with their heavier, more cumbersome vessels, would be forced into close combat, a disadvantage for them. The first clash between the two fleets took place on the 8th of August, when the English Navy, led by Lord Howard, engaged the Armada just off the coast of Gravelines. The Spanish ships, though many, were unwieldy and slow to maneuver. The English ships, lighter and faster, circled the Armada with precision. Francis Drake's fire ships made their mark by setting a number of the Spanish vessels ablaze, further weakening the already faltering fleet. The English capitalized on this chaos, launching coordinated attacks from every angle, their ships firing volleys of cannonballs into the ranks of the enemy. Though the Spanish fleet outnumbered the English, the battle was not going in their favor. The winds and tides also played a significant role in determining the course of the battle. The Spanish were forced to retreat into the North Sea, making it impossible for them to regroup. Their plans were faltering, and Elizabeth's presence, both symbolic and physical, gave her forces the resolve to continue pressing their advantage. The Armada's retreat turned into a full-scale rout, and many of its ships were damaged or destroyed, scattered across the northern seas. As the battle raged on, Elizabeth's message to her troops remained at the forefront of their minds. Her promise of fighting side by side, her unwavering belief in their victory, and her refusal to bow to foreign tyranny inspired them to push beyond their limits. The soldiers, and the sailors aboard the English ships, had become more than just men fighting for a country. They were now part of a greater cause. They were defending not only their queen, but the freedom and autonomy of the English people. In the days following the initial clash, the Armada was in disarray. The winds and storms, which had already driven the Spanish fleet off course, compounded their troubles. Many of the ships, damaged and poorly equipped to withstand the harsh conditions of the North Sea, were lost. The remnants of the Armada limped northward, trying to make their way back to Spain, but they were followed by the relentless English Navy. One by one, the Spanish vessels were either destroyed or captured. On August 21st, the last remnants of the Spanish fleet finally returned to Spain, battered and defeated. The dream of Philip II to restore Catholicism and bring England under Spanish control had been shattered. The English, led by their queen, had not only survived but triumphed. Queen Elizabeth I's leadership, her vision for England's future, and her ability to inspire her people had won the day. Elizabeth's victory was not just a military one, it was a profound political triumph that would echo across Europe. The defeat of the Spanish Armada was a blow to Catholicism's attempt to dominate Europe and a resounding affirmation of Protestantism's place in the world. But more importantly, it was a testament to the strength of a nation united under the banner of its queen. In the years that followed, the defeat of the Spanish Armada would be remembered as one of the greatest moments in English history. Elizabeth's leadership during the crisis had earned her the admiration of her people, and her legacy as a monarch who never backed down in the face of adversity became cemented. Her reign, which had been marked by political turmoil, religious strife, and external threats, would now be seen as a golden age in English history. But the victory at Tilbury and the defeat of the Armada were not the end of Elizabeth's challenges. Her reign would continue to face internal and external strife, from threats of rebellion to the looming shadow of the Spanish and French. Yet, the speech at Tilbury, the battle at sea, and the enduring strength of her resolve would remain a beacon for generations to come. In the years that followed, Elizabeth would go on to build upon the legacy of Tilbury, ushering in an era of exploration, expansion, and cultural flourishing. The defeat of the Spanish Armada was more than just a military victory. It was a defining moment that solidified England's position as a major power on the world stage. For Queen Elizabeth, the victory at Tilbury was the culmination of years of preparation, diplomacy, and determination, but it was also a reminder to her that her people's loyalty was the true power behind her reign. In those fateful moments at Tilbury, Elizabeth had given her soldiers not just the words they needed to fight, but the very spirit to win. And in doing so, she secured her place in history, not only as a monarch but as a symbol of resilience, courage, and leadership.